What is going on, Ship It Nation YouTube station? We're back, letting the true NBA grinders file in as they may. First and foremost, a shout out to our boy Rice here. Got a top 10, couple of top 20s over the last week. Good for you. Congratulations on that. Shout out to our boy Parabay, NY Steel. We're gonna let people keep getting in here, but either way, watch it on playback. Hit us with a like. Hit us with a subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. Before I bring you right in, my first thing is that the nation's kind of been on fire here, not only in NBA, but in MLB. We got the Masters coming up. Kind of brings it right into you, man. How's the last week been going on for you? I haven't seen you since last week. How's NBA? How's MLB? How's life treating you?
Yeah, everything's good. Finally back home, California, nice and sunny. Get away from the cold weather for a little bit, but yeah, I'm excited for the Masters next week. There's some good fights next weekend as well. There'll be some fights this week, I believe. But yeah, MLB has been good. Been nice seeing Nades have a lot of success there. He's been crushing it basically every night. And yeah, and I didn't play NBA last night. I'm kind of bummed. I basically just been doing 150. Oh, look at that, Logan! All happy just hit a grand slam. That's nice. I've been just basically doing the 150 lotto tournament every single night, and it filled before I was able to put some lineups in, so I didn't get to play. Kind of wish I did because I was pretty high on Steph and Denny and all the Blazers guys last night, so it might have been a decent night. It looked like you needed to be like absolutely perfect. Just with I saw some guys scored like over 400 at our Discord, and that only got them like 17th place or something. So it's one of those crazy nights. Tonight might be. I think it's going to be a little bit lower scoring. There's a lot of blowout potential in a lot of these games, but there are some good ones. Some teams that there's basically one game that's a close spread, but I think that there are some other ones that could be a little bit closer depending on some injury news that we get. So it's looking like a pretty decent slate, 2.5 hour lock window. Yeah, so I'm excited to talk through it with my man BJ.
Absolutely, yeah. We're finishing up NBA strong, so that's always good. I'm very excited for the playoffs this year. But like I said, there's, like you said in the Discord, and like I said before, they're still giving out money every single night. If you are not a member of the nation, like Rio was just saying, everybody's been hot. It's been a lot of fun to just be in the Discords and seeing everybody's success. If you're not a member, jump in. MLB 50 gets you half off for the first month, which does include the core package of SaberSim. It's huge, whether you're a one lineup guy or a 150 guy. I'm a smaller lineup type of guy. And even when I make, hand build 2, 3, 4, 5 lineups, I'll still be going to SaberSim to kind of see what the sims are, kind of hand build from there. So definitely useful, even if you are hand building. But enough of that. We are on to our 8-game DraftKings slate. Like you had mentioned, we have 6 games, double-digit spreads, throw in a 9 from the Nuggets game, and then 1 close game with a 240 total. We're going to start here with the Knicks in Cleveland versus the Cavaliers. 10.5 point spread, 229.5 total. Towns, Payne, and McBride are questionable. I assume Towns plays after being off last night, or was it last night, the night before? Last night. And then Brunson is out, Ty Jerome is out, and Mitch Robinson is out. Both defense playing a little bit better. Where are we going here in a 10.5 point spread?
So I think CAG got upgraded to probable, so he'll be back tonight. Okay. I think it was just a maintenance thing last night. This is a nationally televised game, so definitely going to get some of those tighter rotations. But yeah, definitely a game that I would have interest in. Like you said, both teams playing much better on defense. The pick and roll defense for the Knicks has always been their issue, and that could really hurt them tonight because Cleveland does have the best pick and roll offense with Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell up there. So I think that the guards for Cleveland are in a really good spot, and we're starting to see the minutes come up a little bit more. They're running some of these playoff-like rotations to get ready for the playoffs. And with some longer TV timeouts, I think we'll get that again here. So I'd have a ton of interest in Donovan Mitchell. He's been playing great lately. Really good matchup for him, 35 to 37 minutes in each of his last 3 games, and then put up in between 51 to 63 DraftKings points over those 3 games. So yeah, I really have a lot of interest in Mitchell tonight. I think Garland is a fine pivot off of him, but I definitely think with the prices being this close, it's going to be Mitchell all day for me. And then between the bigs, I slightly lean Jared Allen. I think the matchup is a little bit better for him. He does have the potential for foul risk guarding Karl-Anthony Towns, but Mobley's going to have OG Anunoby on him. really tough matchup. I think both these guys have enough upside at these prices to be in consideration, and I'll definitely want to get over the field. It's pretty easy to do it on Jared Allen because he's not getting much ownership, but Mobley, I think I'd be fine in 150 if I had like 25%. I think that'd be pretty good. I think both these guys are in a pretty decent spot, but I do lean the savings down to Allen. Probably not enough upside on these secondary options on Cleveland. I think I'll just stick to the top four. And then on the Knicks, yeah, Cat going to have a really tough matchup against Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. Basically, all of his minutes are going to come against those two guys. So it'd be very tough, but he's well rested, didn't play last night, probably going to be playing upper 30s tonight in the game. I'm sure the Knicks would want to win. It doesn't really matter in terms of standings because Cleveland's locked in where they are. But just in terms of getting some momentum going into the playoffs, I think this would be a pretty big win to get a win against a possible championship caliber team like Cleveland. So I think Cat is in a decent spot here at 10.4K, expensive, but he's going to get low ownership. So I think that's always in play. And then the secondary guys, like they're really priced up now. OG mid sevens, Mikhail low sevens. I think that's kind of closer to a fade. If I had to choose between the two, I would choose OG just because he's been playing great and has beat some really tough matchups. I mean, he had a huge game against the Clippers. I would say Kawhi and Mobley are two of the better wing defenders in the league. So this could be a tougher spot for OG, but he's shown a capability of being able to beat tougher matchups. I think that Josh Hart is probably the guy I have the most interest in at 8.4K. Just because he can get there in a lot of different ways, a triple-double upside, and he should avoid those tougher matchups. I think that he's in a decent spot. And then DeLon Wright at 4.5K, really good price tag for him, and he's probably playing mid-30s minutes just because they don't really have a lot of great guard defenders, so they'll need his defense, they'll need his playmaking. So he's gained the trust of Tibbs and been playing 30-plus minutes in basically every game that he started. So he's in a good spot. So I think that for the Knicks, it's going to be Cat, Hart, and DeLon for me. Cleveland, a lot of Donovan Mitchell, and then some of the front court guys.
Yeah, no, excellent stuff there. I couldn't agree more. It's Cavs guards for me. Kind of pick and choose between I'm going to mix and match. If I make a couple of lineups, I'll kind of go Mitchell one, Garland another. My question, you brought up Wright late at 4,500. We have him at 10%. I would anticipate around that number, maybe a little higher, up to 15, 4,500. You're good getting to the two Knicks, obviously. Now, not to three, it sounds like. Is that kind of the way you're approaching the Knicks side there?
Yeah, I think three might be pushing it a little bit. Not sure we can get 3 GPP winning scores from the Knicks just with the low total and kind of widespread, especially the matchup.
Absolutely. Good. No, I couldn't agree more. For me, a little bit less on the bigs. I think both sides tough matchup, but you kind of touched on that. So yeah, it's going from two really good teams in the NBA to one of them that is not very good. We have the Hornets traveling to Indiana to take on the Pacers. 14, well, it's up to 15.5 point spread, 222.5 total. We have Q tags on Miles Turner, Mathurin, and a probable tag on Nick Smith. This is pretty tough. I mean, we're going to talk about a lot of double-digit spreads. I think this is kind of the one I want to stay away from the most. I think the Pacers have the potential to win this game pretty handily. What are we thinking here, and how many Pacers is too many versus this terrible Hornets team?
Yeah, I never really like picking on or just choosing some of these Pacers guys in these games that have big spreads because we'll see Rick Carlisle go pretty deep into the bench and not really run up the minutes for a lot of these starters. So I don't really love the Indy side. Now, that being said, if we do get a situation where like Miles Turner and Mathurin miss, it gets a little bit tougher to get away from because Thomas Bryant at 4.2K would be a very good option. Obi Toppin at 4.5K would be a good pivot off of him and probably even a better option. And then like Nesmith would get a lot better. Jarris Walker would be in play for sure because he's been playing a lot better. Got talked up a lot by Rick Carlisle last game. So he'd be a really solid value. So I think we just gotta wait for the injury news on both sides because we do have Q tags on Bridges and Nick Smith, and then Taj Gibson. Taj Gibson, but he's not really in the rotation. But it's worth noting that the G League guys for Charlotte should be good for the rest of the season. Damian Baugh will get those backup point guard minutes now, I believe, because I think that he's got enough games on his two-way deal to finish out the season. Wendell Moore, I think he's getting a little bit. He's pretty close. I think he might miss another game and then be good for the season. But both these guys will be in the rotation moving forward. So it's not really a situation where like they have smash values. That would get a lot different though if Bridges were to miss and Nick Smith. But Bridges is obviously the big one just because he's such a high usage guy. That would add Salon into the mix and probably starting. I think that he'd be a pretty solid guy. He's been playing a lot better after the short G League stint. So I definitely have interest in him, but probably not enough upside on the minutes for the guys up top. Like Bridges, if he plays 9.2K, don't really want to pay that. Love the matchup for Mark Williams, but minutes are not really there for him either. Did get to 34 against Utah, which, I mean, they're showing like a little bit more of a willingness to play him longer rotations, but I don't know if they'll do that here. So yeah, just gotta wait for the injury news. I think that it could get interesting on both sides.
Absolutely love it. You know, a couple other people joined in chat. Shout out to Nika. Said she dabbled a little bit last night. Hopefully it went well for you. Little Neck is here, as he always is. Excited to see what he's got in play here for the Discord when the playoffs start. Charlie's here. Shout out to our boy Sean. Sean dropping in here. Big Ed just joined in late. So good. Getting in some viewership. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe button. Yeah, I agree. I think we could be in a position where this Pacers lineup is unavoidable, like what you said. And then to touch on the Miles Bridges stuff, I mean, he had that, I think he had his last kind of big game of the season. What was that versus Utah, correct? Where he went for like 58 fantasy points. So, yeah, I would agree. And this is definitely something we're going to have to keep an eye on as we keep moving forward through the slate. Kings and Wizards is next. We have a 13-point spread in favor of the Kings. Pretty crazy with how bad the Kings have been playing, but I guess the Wizards are just that bad. Pretty much the usual stuff. LaRavia, Middleton, Smart, Coulibaly, George are all out. 232 total. Interesting spot. I mean, the Kings defense has been so bad. I feel like we want to get to some of these Wizards, specifically ones that can shoot the basketball. Would you agree? And if so, where are we going when we have to pick between those guys?
Yeah, definitely agree there. The Kings are a team that you want to beat, or you want to look to guys that are the three-point shooters. So definitely those guys should be in a good spot. It does get a little bit tricky just because the rotation is all over the place for Washington. They might be able to play a little bit more straight up, because I think that Sacramento should win this game pretty easily. They'll kind of make it a little grimy when the game is close to make sure that they lose. But Sacramento should get the win here. I say should just because they haven't, like you said, they have been playing really poor on defense. Offensively, haven't been that great either, but this is a get-right spot for them. Washington, one of the worst rebounding teams, one of the worst rim defenses in the league. So I think if we're looking at guys on Sacramento, I think Sabonis is probably the first guy I'm looking to at 9.5K. Good price tag for him. Kings really just need to basically win out the rest of the way. And we're seeing some really high minutes. Sabonis got to 40 against Indy. So that's probably, if the game's close, he's probably getting up there again. And he should definitely smash in this matchup versus Sarr and Vukovic and Rashawn Holmes. So he's definitely the guy I have the most interest in. These secondary guys' prices getting a little bit up there. I think there's a chance that one of these guys has a good enough game at these prices. I would probably lean DeMar just because he's shown the most consistency. But I like the matchup for all three of these guys, DeMar, Levine, and Monk. Monk is coming off the bench now, which definitely makes him a lot tougher to get to because basically you're paying a premium price tag for the role that he had earlier in the season when De'Aaron Fox was in the starting lineup. So that's kind of tough. You're going to need him back in the low to mid 6Ks to start playing him, I think. So he's probably an X out. So it's probably just going to be the guys up top, Sabonis, DeMar, and Levine. And I definitely lean I would rank it Sabonis, DeMar, and Levine, how it's priced. For the Washington side, you can play Sarr. The matchup is fine. Sabonis is not a great defender. They were really good with their rim protection earlier in the season. Getting a lot worse at this point of the season. But Sarr, they've obviously shown a willingness to play him longer into games, and the usage has been really good. All the shot attempts are way up there. So he's shown that he can pay up the price tag. I'm probably going to be underweight on the Wizards side, especially the main guys. I don't think Sarr, Poole, Carrington are too much in play at the price tags. I probably just look to the value guys. AJ Johnson, not a good fantasy producer, but he's playing a ton of minutes, so you can't really overlook that. So he'd be a guy I'm looking to. And then Jalen Martin, if he's active. I think he will be active. He was inactive last game for the G League stuff, but I think he'll be back tonight, and he should probably play close to 30 minutes. So those are probably the two guys I'm only considering on the Washington side tonight.
Yeah, it's funny. The AJ Johnson stuff is so frustrating. It feels like you got to kind of consider him every single slate with the minutes that he's playing, kind of feels like its own version, at least for me over the last week or so, kind of the own version of the Coors Field stuff. When its price was a little bit lower, you're like, dang, man, it's like one of the big decision points you have early in the slate. But yeah, I mean, it becomes tough. I mean, I wish Poole, would just get a few more minutes, because then he'd certainly be in play for me. But just not enough minutes there. And definitely Sabonis. I mean, you had brought up, Levine and DeRozan. Monk off the bench, but he's going to be an X off for me. But it's really just Sabonis, and that's it. I mean, both of these guys with Levine and DeRozan obviously have shown us upside, but I don't know. You could find yourself in a position with one of these games where DeRozan, gets that forced short corner look. In cases like that, he essentially takes every shot down the floor. But 8,100, a little bit tough here. What could be a double-digit win here for the Kings? All right, we're just going to keep moving on to double-digit spreads, moving down to the Heat, going to Boston. 10.5-point spread here, 211.5, so a really ugly total. Questionable tags, I don't know if it's changed. Seems like some stuff has changed, but Holiday, Porzingis, and Brown are all questionable tonight. Wiggins continues to be out. Duncan Robinson, and then Al Horford is doubtful. I don't know if that's changed, but that's what I had about 30 minutes ago. I don't think I missed anybody as far as the injuries go there.
No, yeah, you covered it. Yeah, I mean, this is a spot that I think is worth waiting for, because we could get some really good ownership on these Boston guys, and the matchup is not terrible. That like the Heat, they play a lot of zone. I don't think they'll be able to do that tonight, just because Boston is obviously like the best 3-point shooting team in the league, so that you don't want to sag off of those guys. But the G League guys are not available for Boston tonight. Which is huge because you have Q tags on Drew, Jaylen Brown, and Porzingis, and if those guys are out, the rotation is going to tighten up a ton. Like they'll probably have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they have 9 guys, which is really, really interesting because Peyton Pritchard would have to play blowout, and he'd have to play a ton of he'll be playing like mid-30s minutes in a great matchup. So I would love to get a lot of Pritchard tonight if any 2 or 3 of those Boston guys get ruled out. And then obviously Tatum would be probably an elite spend up option if Brown and Porzingis were to be out, because he does see a huge bump in usage, 40% usage rate, 1.56 fantasy points per minute without those guys on the court. And he'd be a really good option at 10.5K in a good matchup. Derek White would be another guy I'd look to, even at 7.9K, elevated price tag, but he sees the biggest bump in usage, plus 9% usage rate increase, 1.28 fantasy points per minute. Great matchup for him, just as an off-ball scorer. The Heat struggle against guards like him, so I think that he'd be in a good spot regardless, but he'd be really, really tough to avoid if Brown and Porzingis were to be out. And I am expecting some of these guys to miss, so I think you got to be prepared. Pritchard would be, close to a lock for me if Brown, Porzingis, and Drew were to be out, or if just Brown and Drew Holiday were to be out. Like he'd be really, really tough to get away from. And then keep an eye on Cornette. If he's starting, he'd be a good value. I think Hauser's in a good spot if he gets to start, just with the way that he scores, a lot of off-ball scoring. And then you could even get into like some Baylor Shireman. He could get into the rotation. He had that one huge game off the bench. We could put up 20 points in 16 minutes, 6 or 7 from 3-point range. And he's shown that he can do it. So if he's getting minutes into like the low to mid-20s, he'd definitely be in play as well. Miami side, I think it's all just dictated on whether or not Porzingis is in, or Porzingis and Drew if they're in. Because if Drew is in, tougher matchup for Hero, a tough price to pay at 9K. But if he's out, the pick and roll defense for the Celtics has not been good, and it'd get a lot worse if Drew were to be out. So I think that he'd be in play if Drew were to miss. And the same thing for Bam. If Porzingis is out, the rim defense gets a little bit worse. But I did see, I forgot what who posted it or what it was, but like Cornette has really good defensive stats, so it's not really too much of a drop-off going from Porzingis to Cornette from a matchup standpoint. So I wouldn't go too overboard with Bam exposure, but he'd get a little bit better. And then we just got to keep an eye on the starting lineup for Miami. They could do some weird stuff. They didn't start Khalil Ware last time in this matchup, and it was all matchup-based, so they could go with like a Davion, Larson, Highsmith, Bam, Hero starting lineup to get some more defense out there. So yeah, we just got to keep an eye on what they do in the starting lineup, because I think it'll throw some people off. I'm not sure that Ware is going to get the start here.
If he does, I know you touched on him a little bit. I had the same thought. If Porzingis is out, then bump the bigs for the Heat. But you bring up the Cornette stuff, which kind of makes me want to get off Ware. I think that's still okay for Bam. But if Ware's at 6K, finds a starting lineup, and Porzingis is out, I would say, I'm going to be off them in like 1 to 5 lineups. Do you think that still holds true?
For Bam?
Yeah, no. For Ware, I think Bam you could
Oh,
play. If Porzingis is out, I don't think that Cornet's going to change too much. But Ware, if he finds a lineup and Porzingis is out, will you 1 through 5 lineups? I know you're a 150 guy, but would you find yourself not getting to anywhere at 6K?
yeah, man. I honestly think that he's like a potential 150 fade outside of like a sprinkle here and there. Like he's definitely not making any single entry teams for me.
Okay. No, yeah, and then you touched on the Highsmith. Like if he does end up starting, which could be a little different, he's still playing big minutes, 3,900. Not getting a ton of not getting any ownership really. I think we have value everywhere else, but I think that's okay in game stacks, even though he's not the best point per minute producer. But I don't know. I mean, you want to get to piece of this game, especially if Brown and Porzingis and these guys miss. But man, it is tough. But from what I heard you say, just to reiterate, if Drew is out, you're going to bump Hero. If Porzingis is out, you're going to bump Bam. Correct?
Yeah, it'd be definitely a bigger bump for Hero than it would be for Bam.
Okay.
I think Hero's kind of in a fine spot regardless, but it would get a lot better for him if Drew were to be out. Whereas like there's not a huge drop off in like the interior defense from Porzingis to Cornet.
Yeah. Great. Well, look, hey, man, I hope the injuries fall. I'm excited to play some 6K Peyton Pritchard that could play a whole bunch of minutes. So excited for that. Moving on, we got Rio's Jazz going into Houston. Fun fact, I lived in Houston when I was a kid when Yao Ming and Stevie Francis were there.
Oh yeah.
Always enjoyed going to those. I'm pretty sure I went to a playoff game versus the Spurs. I don't remember if they won or not. I was so young, but it's funny every time that happens. But hey, it's 17.5 down to 16.5 point spread in favor of the Rockets, 226.5 total. These Jazz are going to continue to do what they do. No Clarkson, no Laurie, no Collins. Sexton, Springer, and Kessler are all questionable. I may have missed the Rockets, but I don't have anything on the Rockets side as far as injury news. So that's my bad if so, but that's what I have from the Jazz side. Could be just an absolute smack from the Rockets taking on the Jazz. But what are we thinking here? And did I miss any Rockets injuries? That's my fault.
No, Rockets are clean.
Okay.
The Jazz did rule in Sexton and Kessler though, but Springer is still questionable.
Okay.
Yeah, so they'll trot out a better roster tonight than they have been recently, and we've seen in games like this where they kind of know they're going to lose. It's different when they're playing tanking teams like the Wizards and Charlotte. They'll do some weird stuff with their rotation, but they've kind of been playing it straight up in games like this against like real playoff teams. Like they'll play Kessler and Sexton and Keontae deep into the game, especially if it's close. But even if it's like a blowout, these guys will still be out there. So I think you can there's a little bit of value on these Jazz guys. I don't know if there's enough upside on this slate, but like Sexton and Keontae, I'd be okay with those guys. I don't think the matchup is great for anybody really. Just Houston's one of the best defenses in the league. They do struggle with the pick and roll stuff, so like the guards would be the guys I would look to. But we're starting to get up there for price tag on Filipkowski, even how good he's been playing in the first unit. I think that he's probably he is worth a 7K price tag in different matchups and with different roster iterations. Like I don't think that I'm going to play it with Kessler just because he sees such a big dip in rebounding rates. But Kessler, I don't know, he not great. Like I don't really want to play him. So it's probably just going to be the guards for Utah. Houston is going to get tough too because they could pull these guys. They could pull a plug really quickly if they're up by a ton of points. I love the matchup for basically everybody in the starting lineup, even some of the guys on the bench. But I will probably start with Amen and Jalen Green. I think that we'll probably get one guy on this team that has a good game. I would probably lean the guards. Jalen Green's been playing really well, matches up really well. Utah sucks against guards defensively. Amen, the things that he does well, the transition scoring and the defense could really shine here. Same thing for Tari Eason. Like those two guys play similar style of defense. I think that you're going to get a lot of easy transition buckets from Eason and Amen tonight. Sengun, the price is starting to come down a little bit. Tougher matchup with Kessler in there, but he did put up 52 against the Jazz a couple of games ago, so he's definitely in play. But I probably just lean Amen and Jalen Green if I'm choosing some of these guys. I think Fred VanVleet's just been really rusty since coming back from the injury. Even playing a ton of minutes, like he's been really struggling to put up fantasy points and pay off the price tag. So don't think that I can go there. So yeah, I think the Houston guys are just in a really good spot, but I'm going to lean with Amen and Jalen Green tonight.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. It's tough because these guys are so productive. You mentioned Jalen Green, obviously Amen Thompson. I really wanted to get Kessler out to get to Şengün at 8,700, regardless of the spread. Aren't going to get it. You had kind of touched on some of these guys off the bench. Eason. After Eason, do you have anybody specifically that might be your favorite, or are you really not looking to throw in one of these value guys off of the bench in 150?
I mean, Brooks and Jabari, like they're definitely in play, but I don't think that I want to get too much of like those secondary options. So I'd probably be max. Like I think you probably could be max one of like the Eason, Brooks, and Jabari grouping. I don't really know which one is going to be the one to go off. I feel like Tari has the best upside, so I'd probably lean him. But I think all those guys are in play. Like you could just like the Jazz have such a high turnover percentage. You could really see some spike steal games from one of these guys. Like I wouldn't be surprised if one of like Amen, Tari, Brooks, or Jabari has like 4 or 5 steals tonight and pays off their price tag with the stocks.
Yeah, no, I love it. Title kind of made the joke, I believe, on yesterday's show. We talked about it on Monday. Obviously a daily fantasy show, but I would be very inclined to click 16.5 Rockets. I think they have one of the best chances to be able to cover their spread tonight.
I was looking at all those. I was trying to get on my book. Obviously, being in California, you got to finagle around it. But I definitely was looking at some of these big spreads. Like I think I wouldn't be surprised if like Houston, Indy, OKC like covered tonight. I think that there's like we're gonna get some pretty big blowouts. I feel.
Yeah, and the slate definitely feels that way. It's funny when you look at those. Do you look at first half at all, or am I just a total degen for trying to get money in before halftime so that you can play more?
I don't really do the betting as much unless like there's something I really like, which even then like I feel like I lose most of the time. But
Yeah.
tonight I was trying to get on, so I was trying to get some stuff in. But yeah, I don't really look at the first half stuff.
No, dude, I'm a first half. Maybe that's why I'm a lifelong loser doing that stuff, man. Vegas is sharp, but there's nothing. I mean, what is it, 17.5? I mean, you're going to get them at like -9, bro. That feels pretty juicy there for a 10-point lead at half. But anyways, I digress. We finally get a game with a decent spread. Hawks going to the Dallas Mavericks. Mavs are favored by 3.5 here, 240.5. AD is going to play tonight. We do have Capella and Exum out, obviously. Wallace, Tompin, and Lively are all questionable tonight. Think that's it. I'm like 0 for 4 on some of these games as far as injury news, missing it when it's changed. I think that's right.
Yeah, that's
okay,
it.
Cool.
But you said who was the other person you said?
We have Wallace, Toppin, Lively, all questionable.
Keaton Wallace he got rolled out. I don't know.
Okay.
I bet like you don't get to take the L for that one. So I don't even think that Underdog posted that.
Okay. Dude, yeah, I'm having a bad night tonight. I'm shooting 0 from the field as far as injuries goes. We'll fix that. We got 2 games left. I got to get it right.
We'll count that one as like a foul, like it was a foul shot. So
I missed the front end. I missed the front end of the free throw though. So damn.
It didn't count as a field goal attempt though because he got fouled. Yeah, this is the closest spread, highest total on the slate, I believe. So should be good from a fantasy perspective. It does get a little bit tougher when you look at the Dallas side, adding in both the bigs because it looks like Lively will be back tonight. Gafford returned last game. They're going to be very limited, but they're also really trying to make this 2 guard lineup or 2 big lineup workouts. So there's 12 minutes of overlap between Gafford and AD. All right, we got the Denver news is trickling in now. So they're going to try to overlap those guys a lot, and it takes away the upside on AD a lot because he hasn't topped double-digit boards in 4 straight games. And adding in 2 really good rebounders like Gafford and Lively, I think is just going to limit his upside overall if you're not getting that double-double bonus. And, a lot of the games where we're playing AD earlier this season where you had like those huge games, you look at the most recent game log, like 16 in his first game with Dallas rebounds and 23 in one of his last games with the Lakers. Like that's where you want to kind of fire up AD. So it's going to be a little bit tougher to get to him. I love the matchup for the bigs, in particular on Dallas, just because the rim defense for Atlanta has been really bad in the second half of the season. But there's not like a smash. Like none of these guys are really great values at their price tags. I think Dinwiddie is okay at 6.3K. Just the pick and roll defense for Atlanta has not been great. Matchup versus Dyson is not great either. But like we said a lot, like he can give up a lot of volume to pick and roll guys, so guards can have their way against Atlanta. And then Clay, like, I don't know, he's fine to sprinkle in. Atlanta hasn't been good against 3-point defense with their 3-point defense this season. He's still taking a ton of shots, but you really need high efficiency from Clay. So the Dallas side is tougher to get to. The Atlanta side, I am much more comfortable with, and it's going to be Trey and Dyson for me. Trey coming off of 6 straight double-doubles, so the floor has been really good and actually put up a ceiling game last night. So I think I'm fine with Trey. I think Dyson is just playing great basketball right now. 7.7K is a reasonable price tag for somebody that does a lot of everything. Put up 44.5 and 51.25 DK points last game. So yeah, those are the two guys I'm kind of fixated on. Okongwu, I think it's going to be a fade. The rim defense for Dallas is getting a lot better with AD and both bigs returning. So I'd be okay getting off of him. And pretty much that's it. Like LeVert is getting a little bit of ownership. I think it's just the nature of the slate. He's been playing enough minutes to be viable, but not really doing enough to be a fantasy viable option. So it's just going to be the spend ups, Trey and Dyson. And I think you can get to some AD, but I wouldn't be expecting like a 60-point outing from him right now.
Yeah, no, very well said. It's such a shame. This is not the same Mavericks defense at the rim that we saw a few weeks ago, obviously with AD and Gafford and everybody back. RIP to our Kongwu shares throughout the year. He definitely, made everybody some money. Absolutely one of my favorite players of the season. And then just kind of touch on it, not really game related, but I brought up in the Discord, man, I was the biggest Trey hater coming into the season. Really gained a lot of respect for his game and now pretty much always in play for me, sub 10K. So I really like your shout there. But very well said. And now we're going to get this right as we're moving on to the Spurs and the Nuggets game. We just got news on essentially everybody, right? It's everybody starting 5. Porter, Brown, Murray, Gordon, Joker, all questionable tonight. Throw in Shohan as a questionable tag. And I think that's it. In a 9.5 point spread, 231.5 total. Please don't tell me I missed anybody there.
No, you got that one.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can expect these Denver guys to miss. Like, there's just no way you don't list all these guys questionable and then all of them play. Jokic, I would say, Jokic and MPJ and Aaron Gordon, I would say, are the most likely to miss. MPJ is dealing with some family issues. I think somebody in his family got sick, so prayers up to him and his family. But he's Michael Malone basically said like he's not going to be playing right now, so expect him to miss. Jokic obviously played 34 minutes straight last night, so he's probably missing. And then Aaron Gordon just been dealing with the calf injury all season long, so I would expect him to miss. From a DFS perspective, like DeAndre Jordan, definitely worth waiting for because he's been really good when in the games that he gets to start. I think that. So the Peyton Watson got questionable too. I don't know if I feel like he is probably going to play. I don't really have any reason to back that up. He's just a young guy, but he did play 45 minutes last night, so maybe maybe he sits.
I mean, if you had to say, I think you're nailed. I think 2 or 3 of these guys have to sit, so the guys that don't are automatically going to be in play.
Yeah, that's basically how. I mean, they have bodies their entire bench. Like they don't really have a lot of guys that are up and down from the G League. So they'll have bodies. I mean, yeah, this is going to be a spot. You're going to want to get 3 to 4 guys in this game on the Denver side, I would say. Definitely would be Westbrook. It would be Jordan, Zeke Naji, Jalen Pickett. Those guys are definitely going to play a ton. And then we've seen, I think it was Hunter Tyson that got a start earlier this season and did pretty well. I believe. I mean, all these guys, their names are very similar. So it's so Hunter Tyson got the start against Golden State, played 20 minutes in that game. So he'd have a long leash. I would say Spencer Jones is another guy that's going to play a lot. His game is gross. I remember watching him play a couple weeks ago. He's got I don't even know how he made it to the NBA. He's got his shot is disgusting.
Yeah, just to touch on that note, isn't it funny how much over the last couple of years the NBA has prioritized athleticism and size versus actual skill? And it makes sense. But you're right. You see somebody make it to the league who has the ugliest jumper or it never goes in. And you're like, how the hell do you get paid to play basketball?
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
It's Oso Iguodala. His jump shot is crazy looking. I don't know if anybody's seen that, but there's some clips of him, I think, just straight up hitting the side of the backboard in warm-ups. But I mean, yeah, they're tall and athletic, so there's always going to be a spot for them in the NBA, I guess. I don't know. This is like it's honestly impossible to break down the Denver side because we just don't really know who's going to be playing. It's just play the guys that are in. I would say DeAndre Jordan is going to be the best option though. 4.5K, great matchup. Spurs rim defense and rebounding is terrible right now, so gonna want those guys. And then the Spurs side has a ton of value too that opened up with Vassell, Keldon, and Bassey getting ruled out. I love Castle tonight. Like I think that he's going to be like one of the first guys that I click on in single entry. I just think that he's going to have such a massive role, and I think the upside could be really, really big for him in a great matchup. I think Keldon got downgraded questionable as well. Yeah, he did. So I mean, if he misses, we're talking about would be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys available for San Antonio. I don't think that their G League guys will be available tonight because it is a road game. Sandro would be very good. I mean, he's such a good permanent producer at times when he does get the minutes. I mean, he had a huge game against was it the Golden State? Or who was that? It was
a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah, against the Knicks, but 34 points. I think that was the most points ever scored in the least amount of minutes. So he'd be a great option. I think you kind of want to get to him regardless. And then Champagne's been playing a lot. Like he's probably playing 32 plus, like guaranteed playing 32 plus tonight with all these guys getting rolled out. So he'd be a very good value. Yeah, I mean, yeah, get a lot of guys in this game. Basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. It's certainly one of those things where it's like, hey, leave all your roster spots open and then just configure the lineup based off who's in and who's out. I mean, looking at it, I mean, tons of value. And I would say, like you said, Malone, Porter Jr. is more doubtful. I would say the same for Joker. Like, so I would just anticipate that when you're building lineups, I wouldn't even leave enough salary in the position to do that.
Yeah, it's tough to do. You have to like just put a projection on all these cheap guys for Denver and build with that in mind. I would say just kind of like because there should be enough value in these other games. Like for sure on the Sacramento or the San Antonio side, you'll have pivots, so you can definitely make it all work. But the Denver side, I would think is probably better than San Antonio if all those guys were to miss, just because you're flip flopping like all these high usage guys with a bunch of unknowns that probably are going to be playing 30 plus minutes. So I would definitely want to save roster spots and build with that in mind.
Yeah. And I don't want to give too much away from your mind and how you kind of do this, but when that happens and you're kind of building, your 150 on Saber, are you building, one set obviously with the projections if everybody's out and then another set and that's kind of easy to switch between, or are you just manually entering projections when the news comes out?
So I don't do that. Just it's a little bit tough. Like that's very time consuming, and it's like tough with like doing content and having to be in Discord and stuff. If I was just playing and I didn't have to do all that stuff, I would definitely do that. I believe Tambo mentioned it on one of his mastermind shows that Petty Theft, who's the best NBA DFS player out there, he doesn't play much anymore, but that's what he does. He'll build in sets that makes it a lot easier for him to flip flop instead of having to wait for projections to update and wait for I'd like have to rebuild all that stuff. So you can just be able to flip back and forth.
Yeah, makes sense. At worst, have the mental of how you're going to approach when these guys are ruled out and who your pivots are.
Yeah.
Wonderful. All right, last game of the night, at least on the DraftKings slate, we have the beef stewless Detroit Pistons going to Oklahoma City tonight. 13.5 point spread. Tobias is probable. Cade is doubtful. Wiggins, Mitchell, Stewart, Holland, Saucier are all out. Think we drilled that one. Before you dive into the game, I know you've brought it up on a handful of shows. I saw like a clip of all the stuff Isaiah Stewart has done, and that's so tough. It's just like from a player perspective, it's like, the Giannis one sticks out in my head, but I mean, he's probably one of the few players in the NBA, well, all the NBA players, but the biggest one on the list that I'd be scared of in an alley. Dude's jacked.
Oh, yeah.
Dude does not care. And just for laughs, you go back and watch when he tried to go after LeBron. You're thinking, dude, this guy's off his rocker, man. But all those guys are out. Interesting game here, and happy to get to some Paul Reed.
Yeah, B-ball Paul. I mean, it's about fucking time Isaiah Stewart got suspended. I mean, Jesus Christ, how many times can this guy like do dirty plays and not get like just no repercussions? It's one of those guys that you would love to have on your team, but you hate playing against him. Like I don't know, it kind of reminds me of like Draymond. Like Golden State fans love Draymond. I would say that for the most part, the general consensus around the league, like back when he was playing, at a high level and stomping on Domantas Sabonis' chest and kicking Steven Adams in the nuts, people hated him, but Warriors fans love him. So I would imagine it's the same thing for Detroit. I've been, I don't know, like it's a double-edged sword because I think a lot of people that watch basketball now miss the old NBA where the bad boys in Detroit. I feel like they're kind of trying to revive that a little bit. So maybe they're just like, they played really, really hard.
Oh, it's super hard, physical. And I think that's exactly, you drilled it. Like he's walking off the floor, like going Detroit on his shirt. They're trying to get that back and get that little chip or edge, whatever you want to call it. Cause I mean, they're young and they have potential. So, and you know, what's also funny? I had no idea Jalen Duren was 21 years old. How crazy is that?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
He's got a man's body at that age. Like he's going to be good. Like he's already really good, but he like the ceiling is pretty high for Duren. But yeah, like I wouldn't be surprised if JB Bickerstaff was talking to these guys like pre-game or like before the season started, like trying to bring some pride back to Detroit and play with like a chip on your shoulder. Because I mean, it seems like they're playing that way. I think they definitely overachieved when you consider how bad they were last year. But Bickerstaff is a really good coach, so it's not surprising that they are playing as well as they are. But yeah, as for tonight, I'm going to be underweight Schroeder. I don't think this is a good matchup for him. Obviously, the usage and the role is going to be insane. But there's a really good chance that Detroit gets blown out here, just missing all their rotation pieces. So I would be underweight on all the main guys and probably be setting a rule. Like if I had any Schroeder, Harris, Duren, Beasley, Asar, then I probably want a run back because I just don't see these guys getting there in a meaningful way unless the game is close and they keep it close. I think Asar, you probably don't need to put into that rule just I think he can do, like they've run him into blowout at times just trying to get his minutes up, and he does a little bit of everything that like it doesn't really matter. Like he can be game script proofed at times. But I'm not crazy about it, especially when we have all that value opening up in the game before that. But I don't mind B-ball Paul Reed. He'll get the backup center minutes and probably play him blowout, I think.
I mean, they have to, right? Who's going to play backup center?
They have some guy named Tolu Smith that's projected to get some minutes. I have no idea who that is. He's a G League guy, so we have to wait to see if they call him up. But if they don't, like, yeah, he's got to play blowout. So he'd be good regardless, I think. But we're starting to get a lot of value in the other games that make him less necessary. The OKC side probably going to be a fade for me. I just don't think that we haven't needed a Shai Gilgeous score in like 7 straight games, and it's a lot tougher for him to reach that ceiling when you share in the core with Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren, especially when you consider the blowout. There's just not enough minutes and not enough possessions to go around for SGA. So I'm probably going to be off the OKC stuff. Maybe Chet, 7.2K, power forward center is pretty good. So I'd be okay with that. But yeah, not a great game to end the night.
Yeah, no, and you kind of wrap up the slate. I mean, I couldn't think of obviously it's the end of NBA season, but I couldn't think of another slate where we have so many double-digit favorites, so many situations to just completely blow out. So I'm very interested to see. I think you brought it up earlier in the show. It's going to be such a difference of last night's slate and scoring to tonight's slate and scoring. So, no, I mean, you broke that down fantastic as always. I'm just excited to play some Paul Reed at 3,100, kind of mix in some of these Celtics pieces and wait on that Denver news. I mean, I think this is going to be too much value. But no, well said. Anything you want to leave them with for after 8 games? I mean, these shows are a little bit shorter with the kind of nature of how NBA is ending. But anything you want to leave them with to leave them with the night with?
No, not really. I hope that the rest of the slates for the week are a little bit better than tonight. I don't even know if I want to play this one. It looked a little bit better when I was breaking it down, but I think yesterday was probably the slate to play. This one looks a little gross, so I got some time to decide. I'm gonna hit a little walk down to the coffee shop, and then I'll let the wind take me.
I love it to be in the position. I think one of the last times we kind of talked about this, you just ripped second. So
Yeah.
really hope I see your name up there again tonight if you do play. If not, and you're not a member here at the Nation, one more time, MLB 50 will get you half off, $49 for the first month. You could spend $49 at McDonald's getting a couple of combos. Might as well throw it up there, be able to make a little bit of money during the first month and check out the site. But we appreciate everybody watching, as NBA is winding down, all of these views, all these likes, really appreciate the support. But we're going to go sweat some MLB. So I'm excited for that. Go build some NBA teams. Good luck tonight in your contest, and let's ship it.